It's time for this week's edition of Talking Real Estate, and as always, I'm joined in the studio by Wes Davidson from PRD in Horsham. Wes, good morning, how are you?
Very well, Nims, yourself?
Going well, thank you. Now, I just want to pause here. PRD, that stands for Property Research and Development, and I know a lot has changed in your illustrious 30-plus years in the business. What's one of the major things?
I think the research and development side of things is probably the biggest thing. There's more access to information via the internet. People are better informed as a general rule, and that information is so much more readily available for them that I think it has opened the parameters of people's thinking too. Once upon a time, I think more people were comfortable buying locally, but now I see a bigger trend where people are prepared to go into other areas and invest because they can get that information.
So if, say, you were considering maybe going out of Horsham and spreading your wings a little bit and investing, what's some of the data telling us?
Look, around the country, it's showing that houses are up 7.3% in the last 12 months on average, 7.94% for apartments. We've seen the capital cities of Perth, Darwin, and Hobart starting to really come off. That those markets are really suffering at the moment, whereas Melbourne and Sydney is still going very strong, although there isn't the rapid growth that we've been seeing over recent years. It's still, those two particular regions are going quite well, and a lot of the data, of course, to some of the bigger regional centres is quite promising, your Bendigos and Ballarats and Geelongs and places like that. The rental data indicates that there's a slight decline on rental demand nationally in the last 12 months, but Melbourne and Sydney, once again, less affected than some of the other capital cities.
It's got to be other factors that involve, like, say, location, amenities nearby, things like that, that also contribute to this decision? Very
much so, and I think that's one thing. You know, if you go down and look at how many, I think the other day there was 28,000 properties for sale in Melbourne, off the top of my head, looking at the real estate website, and I thought, gee, how do you start to navigate this maze? And I was doing it for my own purposes, and thought about, obviously people start going to suburbs, but then people start looking at investments and is this property going to be leased? Now, a lot of the research that's come out from Melbourne University now, just recently, indicates that the further you get away from public transport, particularly railway stations, the less rent you're going to receive, and the less likely that your property is going to be leased quickly. So public transport's become a very, very main, or very big focus, particularly in the metropolitan region. And proximity to universities was also another key factor, because so many people, of course, flood into the university for the year. So they're two things that if you're going to invest in bigger areas, look for public transport, look for position close to amenities, particularly educational facilities and medical facilities. They are some key factors, according to the research from Melbourne University.
Now, Wes, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but next week you're going to provide us with a full review of the first quarter results.
Yeah, we've got the first quarter results for Horsham. Just finished doing the research on that this week. Very, very interesting results for the first quarter, and we'll be talking about those next week. And if you're a bit of a history buff, have a look at the property called Lynn's Chambers in Lydiard Street, Ballarat, which is coming up for sale. Our sales manager down there, Brendan Barclay, tells me it'll be about 800 plus. Very historic building. That building was allegedly, or presumably, the first lawyer's office in Ballarat, and it was the man who actually represented the Scobie family, who, of course, one of the murder of Mr. Scobie was one of the reasons the Eureka Stockade took place. So it's a very historic building, and that's coming up for sale in Ballarat, so you might want to pop and have a look on the web if you're a bit of a history buff.
Yeah, certainly will. Well, Wes, thanks again for joining us in the studio this morning, and we'll chat to you again next week.
No worries. Thanks, mate.